I think I've introduced all of them. So the oh yes, please, yeah, Mike.
So I'm meeting Aishwarya for the first time. She's not a Malayali, she's from Karnataka. And I have a wonderful student, not with me, but she helped me, Vivek Adi. His language is Sahidi, and whatever he spoke, I could understand every word of it. So he suggested Aishwarya's name, and thank you for coming and accepting this.
So this is also one reason we thought it may be interesting to use English also, so we can all participate in the discussion. So the topic today is reading reimagined. We are discussing reading not from the reading emails or documents. We are talking about reading for pleasure and of course other utilitarian reasons. So the way we thought we could do this is not just a Q&A session. This is actually a discussion that involves all of you. So we'll start with some warm-up questions to get you into the discussion, and then we will let you also ask and participate in this discussion by asking questions to the panelists or maybe even like a discussion. Then we will close off with the remarks from the panel. Okay? All right, good. So to set the context, Ullas gave a very good seed at the beginning. If you look at the way reading evolved or even language evolved, it's actually the last stage in the evolution of intelligence. So there is a very interesting book called The Brief History of Intelligence by Max Bennett. I strongly recommend to all of you reading it. So he said there are 5 breakthroughs in intelligence. The first one was to, of course, identify where is danger and where is not danger, right? So you need to survive. So the first primary sense is to figure out which way to steer, which way to turn. Okay? Going toward in that direction will kill you or you'll die. If you turn right, you die, turn left, you survive. So you need to keep that in your mind. Okay? That smell, that sound, it's all dangerous. The second thing was how to reinforce this, whatever you learn, right? So that next time you can recall, okay, shouldn't turn right, turn left. Now the third thing that happened was simulation. Means you need to imagine things of various possibilities and how to escape from a situation when you are in danger. So you need to plan, you need to imagine things like if I am in front of a lion, how do I escape? Right? So this was simulating different scenarios in your head. The third thing was, how do I understand this other person's perspective? So you need to have a view of when you are talking to another person, oh, he is now sad or he is happy or this person is now going to attack me. So we wanted to create this model of called mentalizing. So that is also all these, as you can see, all very related to survival, right? Now the last thing, which is the fifth one, was language. How do I convey what I know to the other person so that it can be passed down to generations or how to help you survive better? So that was how the last stage, the language was. So and as you can see, even the way you write also evolved a lot over a period of time. It started with some cave drawings, then it became symbols, hieroglyphics, then Gutenberg printing press, and now we have Kindle, right? So a lot of things evolved. So this is just to give you a context of how the reading itself and the content creation itself changed. Okay, now let's get into the serious stuff. So maybe the first question is to Prahlad and to Aishwarya. What we know, people read for various reasons, right? Like people read for knowledge, people read for curiosity's sake. But generally, there is from your experience, or in personal experience, how did your style of reading evolve?
Sir,
Is it okay?
yeah, I'd like to start with a quote relating to what Sunil was saying about intelligence. We need to understand intelligence So Jean Piaget says, intelligence is that what you use when you don't know what to do. It's a very profound statement. And the similar way you gave it in examples, what to do and next. And from that angle, I always say that everybody is intelligent. Unfortunately, our academic systems give grades for everybody to say whether somebody is A grade or B grade or pass or fail. This is a very wrong concept as far as an individual I am concerned. So I come from that particular point of view. So traditionally, I think as initially what Ullas mentioned in terms of different stages of cognition, understanding the letters, the word, the phrases, the sentences, the contextual meanings associated with that, and maybe relating to our past experiences as well, will have its own profound impact on an individual. And that could be different for different individuals even if you read the same sentence or a story, because we relate to several things that we have experienced. So today, when the poems were read, especially about the father's departure, I was relating to how I did it for my uncle. He didn't have children, and I was the first 5-year-old doing it. So it is experiential as well. And traditionally what we generally do, why do we want to learn a language in the first place? Language was not there, or alphabets were not there in the beginning for a long time. This is, as he said, to transfer the knowledge. Why do we need to transfer the knowledge? Because we have the empathy and we want others to understand as well. From a technology point of view, patterns are meant to really transfer knowledge to others and declaring to the whole world, I have this knowledge, let me share with you. So these are all the background with which knowledge, intelligence, and sharing knowledge was concerned. Personally, I happen to read a lot because my uncle used to buy one book every month. I had a luxury of the books. In olden days, in the 80s or 70s, a book was a luxury. And we had ample time to spend for reading. So it was something very interesting. So initially I started with, my library was mostly English, very less of Malayalam. For me, it was curiosity to know new words and phrases. And I stumbled upon a lot when I did not know the meaning of several words. Even the word several was wrongly taught to me. Several means too many. Actually, it is not. Several means countable, less than 10, or less than 7. There are definitions of that. And then it was a kind of that goes into your soul. You want to read as much as possible. There was a time I read from first page to the last page, both sides, every letter written there in that book. I want to prove that I can do that. But now I stopped reading. 2 reasons. One, I want to have my freedom. I want to have my independence in my thoughts. And some of the things that come in my mind are totally new to me, which are not even known to me before that particular point in time. I enjoy doing that. But to reach there, I need to go through the process of learning language. And I would like to say the thoughts are not language dependent. Language is only a means to translate or transfer the thoughts to somebody else or to a book or a particular paper. But I started reading again because I realized that I can come up with hallucinations, I can come up with original thoughts, that I need to respect every other original thoughts that have emanated from others, and they are sharing those to me, and I have to respect it with my full heart. So that is the way I look at it, that maybe I'll transfer to Aishwarya, let her share her thoughts.
One question.
Yeah.
You maybe just share a bit about how you're reading. Again, you said you stopped reading in the middle and started reading. But what do you notice from your childhood until now, your style of reading, how you read, what you read, did it change? Did it evolve?
It changed a lot.
Yeah.
Initially, I read all the Perry Mason's books.
Yeah.
Perry Mason is a lawyer. I mean, it's a character. And I was so interested in that.
And what was the evolution of your what you were looking for in your?
And then I moved to psychology, sociology, man watching, and then I went to philosophy. So one of the very interesting short books was Sunil by Jonathan Livingston, an amazing one, biplane, and that really transformed me. But then I was not looking for stories per se. Initially it was stories which could really attract me with all the ups and downs. Later it was gems of thoughts that could really excite me to be into that. So I would like to say Savina Kumari's that particular poem really made me to cry a lot. I think she was supposed to come here. There is a Hindi movie by name SIR, Sir, in Netflix. The last word uttered in that movie speaks the entire movie in one word. And I don't want to say what it is. Those who have watched will know what it means. That is a transformational, transcendental thought that is being shared. Very simple, very powerful. So I'm more interested in those things now, and that has changed a lot.
Okay, good. Thanks.
Hi everyone. So my journey into reading is fairly not very deep or profound, I would say. As a kid, I was a bit of an awkward child, buck-toothed, bit isolated socially, and I have no siblings either. So books were the source of entertainment for me. I think it reached a point where I used to read so much. My dad would come, switch off the light and say, okay, it's time to sleep now. So that's how reading began. Over the course of many, many years, I did have a bit of a break in reading in between when I was studying for my mains exams. In India, we have the IIT, JEE examinations. I took a break from reading, and it took me a while to get back into it. But now I think it's been many, many years of reading a lot of books, and it has truly changed the way I think about people, their issues, without having to really experience it. It is a way to listen to people's stories without having to go through that trauma yourself, be a third person viewing or feeling what they would have felt through their narration. That's my journey into reading.
Actually, maybe one question. So, what do you see in your generation and about the styles of reading? And have you seen, or have you come up with ways to get people excited about reading? Like, are you part of book clubs or what are some of the things that you have noticed?
I think with my generation specifically, I am in my late 20s now. A lot of people are going back to reading because I think we all are really sick and tired of doom scrolling and internet and constantly bombarded with views that are not now a lot of people are reading a lot of non-fiction books, books that will help them, self-help, finance, because these are the kind of more adult questions we have now, like how do I do my taxes, how do I invest, and less of the fantasy which we were previously reading as young adults, like Harry Potter or Percy Jackson, if you all are familiar. That's how the pattern has changed. I think, I feel like social media has played a bit of a positive impact also in the reading space, because we see a lot more people who, at least for the sake of being the main character in their life, they read on the metro, they read on the bus. A lot of people are more excited about reading. The way we do, at least amongst my friend group, we do have a book club, or we do follow each other on online platforms where we can read each other's reviews on books. So there is that sort of knowledge sharing as well in the community. We don't have the traditional setting of book clubs where we physically meet and discuss or read a book, but we now moved on to say Goodreads, or Fable, where we kind of get to see what books my friends around the world are reading, and their reviews and their feelings about it. That's how it's changed now.
Interesting. So when, okay, I'm also from Palakkad. So last mentioned about this library in Palakkad, right? There's a shared space where people come and discuss. So when I went to US for my higher studies, until then I had this notion that you can only read books in a library. Okay, you can go to a bookstore, but you browse the book and then keep it there and keep it back on the shelf and come out. I went there, I went to this bookstore called Barnes and Nobles. And there are a lot of people sitting there in the bookstore and reading, and it's not like people really loved books and then they went to the bookstore. The one reason that I noticed is it had a coffee store next to it. So there's a common door between Barnes and Nobles and Starbucks, and the best way to get people into the bookstore was actually having a coffee store. So a lot of, that was pretty interesting, to get people to read, and all these social setting really matters. Maybe moving to Vinod. So you've seen the way the form factor or the type of the device or the books evolved over a period of time, right? And the books have become now more people are reading more using technology. The library is replaced by Amazon's recommendation engine. What book you want to read is algorithm is recommending you what to read, right? Just like in the social media, you get this. Now AI is able to summarize things and give you the gist, all that stuff. So when you look at it, there are many advantages that AI brings, that you can understand something that you didn't using AI. But you also has like what Aishwarya said, the doom scrolling and all that stuff that keeps going fast in your screen. You read snippets, very short attention span. But what do you see where AI could help, where something that is lacking in this feeds that people get in every day when they open the mobile phone and things? Is there something that you can think that AI could be positive, have a positive impact?
Yes, so I think just like what they were mentioning, right, the journey is whoever comes to the journey, right? I myself, like you mentioned, that I used to go to the bookstore, just like what Sir mentioned, right? I used to have a budget, every month I should buy a book, and my budget was around $20-25 at that time. So, weekends I used to go there, I would spend the time, pick books, and then I used to read. And my reading time was usually on my market. Okay, so uninterrupted time, like one solid hour, and I used to read a lot. Then when it slowly started to change to the Kindle, then obviously it's a new technology and everybody starts to do it. And the moving factor for me was the cost. So if I was spending $20 there, I could get it for half the price. So I started to switch, because initially I think a lot of people find it difficult to read on a Kindle or whatever. It more easier. But then, started to come on the phone, and we made the genesis to that. Then slowly, it was all over the place. Like when it started to become, Amazon started pushing everything, and we ran out of time. So now the problem that I am facing, before I come to the point, the problem that I am facing is like, I have so many books. Okay, but when you have a physical book, you read it and then you put it on a table, you always remind, or put it in the bag, right? You always are reminded of that, you're reading the book and then you finish it. Whereas if it is in a Kindle, what happens is like, you forget it. If you don't read it for one day, it slips from your mind, and then you forget it, and then there's a huge gap. So you lose the train of thought, and sometimes you need to go back, and it becomes difficult. So the situation I am facing now is like, I don't know if people know this site called BookBuck, wherein, Amazon just dumps books, they are very good books.
BookBuck.
Just cost $1.99 USD, right? And you get almost all the very good books there. So they are forcing you to buy, so I keep buying every month. And if you see my Kindle thing, it's like loaded with books. I know it's like 200, 250 books. But do I read everything? No, I don't. Because it keeps stacking up, and then I can't keep up because it's just like mobile. But when I see I'm hooked on to it, I need to read this book. But it keeps on adding, and then that's the challenge that people are facing now, right? So now with AI coming in, and then it becomes even worse. Meaning people are, because Amazon is tracking on whatever you are seeing, which books you are reading, and they have acquired good reads. It's another channel. So if you go there and then start, all the recommendation kicks in, and then you go into the rabbit hole, right? So the content, the spread is reduced because they are trying to squeeze you into a pigeonhole and saying that okay, this person likes this kind of thing, and then they pigeonhole, and then you are bombarded with only those books. So you lose visibility on all the other range of things, right? Unless of course you go and start deliberately, you will start breaking in, and then you start to. So it's beyond our control, we can't do anything about it, right? So, but how you overcome it is like you be conscious about it, and then you make sure that you go and read those books or try to browse those books which are of interest to you, right? And then you start shopping it. But it's not perfect, but so the important thing is like with all this new technology, it's very fascinating. I'm a tech person, so I want to be involved in it. There are good things, and it's like in everything in life, there are pros and cons. But the clever thing for you to do is that you need to understand how these things work. For example, a recommendation. Also, people who are watching YouTube videos, how it works, right? The moment you see the video, the next time you move on with similar videos, right? So the biggest challenge that I see is like they're pigeonholed, and then becomes an echo chamber kind of thing, right? So your quality is so that's what it is.
And anything that you see the technology helps you in actually managing your reading. You said you have got a lot of books. Do you use technology to
right? So again, pros and cons, right? So what people generally tend to do is like you go and try to read the summary first, right? So you are link it and all this kind of stuff wherein everything is summarized for you and then all the main points. But I don't like that because see the problem now with the readers now, especially the young generation, they have a very short span of attention, right? And it is fed by the old system in the sense that they are interested not in you reading engaging knowledge, but to sell you ads. So that the more you read shorter pieces and more you go into different sites, the more ads you generate, right? So that's their perspective. So they only publish like very short articles, and typical people read. I just reading right. The statistic is like only they just spend 1.5 minutes on average on a single page. Anything beyond that, you are so used to it. They just put the thing in that format that people tend to read that, and then it's more of quantity than of quality. Right? So people want to know okay, what's the next thing, what's the next thing. So I think the technology company knows all the human weaknesses, right? And then they really catch on to that and then build the system to so their perspective and our perspective is different. So what I tend to do now is like the summarization is something that's like people use a lot now, right? But I use it in another way. Like for example, if I have I purposely go and read, big articles. Because I have to force myself to read. So the thing is like, when the person writes, right, there's a logical thought train to it, right? So he's explaining things and then there's a context to it. And then when you follow that, and then that's when the real understanding comes, right? Whereas in the web pages, what they do is just for consumption, right? Only very superficial kind of knowledge is mentioned there, right? So you don't really understand. You don't really, mind doesn't register that, right? So what I do is like, in books also, I read it, then I do the summary. Because after I read it, then I keep thinking, okay, what did I read? How can I summarize? And then if I just use the engine or the ChatGPT or whatever, right, to summarize, and then compare. And then I also try to do some critical thing and say, okay, this is what I understand, what do you think? So it will give me more inputs there, and then I can compare. Then I can find the knowledge gaps where I'm not really focusing on it. That's how it is.
I think that maybe you mentioned about the short attention span of the new generation, right? Maybe I just want to hear from you, like, normally, what do you and your friends really do when you get along reading? Is it something really hard right now to finish reading?
Yes, I think everyone would go and lying if I said, no, yeah, I will find it. Yeah, it is hard, and like Mr. Vinod has mentioned, we are so used to consuming bite-sized content. We want the book review in 15 seconds, we want a movie review in 15 seconds, that we completely lose the most beautiful part of reading, like Professor mentioned, is what you bring to the story, what your own perspective or your life brings to something you read. And that's definitely completely lost. So now I think when we do get long readings or we have to read a long article, the initial instinct is to copy-paste, explain in ChatGPT. But now I'm trying to stay away from that. I have done it. But now I go on to Wired or I read on Substack. And what I intentionally do is I try to disagree with the article. So what I'm doing is I'm reading, at the same time I'm critically thinking, okay, I'm going to try and debate this point. Either I debate it with the best of my knowledge and I realize, okay, I'm wrong, this is my knowledge gap. Or I debate it and think, okay, I think I am right, but I need to read a bit more. So me constantly debating keeps me engaged to read the long paragraph. And that's how I handle it. Now a lot of other people are trying to, make notes about like physical notes on the article, or they would discuss it with another person. So two people are reading it and they debate it or discuss it. I think these are ways now people are trying to, read too long reading. But yeah, I think we still do have like a long.
How many physical books do you read? How many physical books do you read? How often do you read?
I think I'd say in a month, in a good month, I read 2 books comfortably, along with the other things I do.
Maybe the question to audience is, do you read physical books? How many of you read? I know all the SMLF folks I'm not including, I know they all read. Okay. So maybe you want to, yeah.
So one interesting fact, so I just was reading, right? So one interesting fact is like, in the world, right? Typically only 50 to 75% of the adults read at least one book per year. So which means to say that between half the population to, quarter of the population, they don't read at all. So reading is not easy.
But I think that statistics may not be general.
It's not general.
Yeah.
From a
So,
worldwide perspective.
yeah.
But it depends on the education, culture, and a lot of other factors. But it's a general figure to go by.
Yeah, I read that in US it's about 15%, but in Singapore it's quite high. It's about like 60% of the people actually read. It's quite high. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So there is zero time and phenotype. what we are born with, what we have become because of our environment. I do leadership training. For that, we use what is known as emergentics profiling of the thinking and behavior preference. Naturally, I am not a structured person in thoughts. Because of my upbringing, I became one. But I put in a lot of effort to really maintain that. Why I'm bringing that up is each one of us are unique. Not everybody can become a reader. Not everybody can be confined to books. And now I am more of a visual person. Traditionally, I am born with, but I got into the reading of the books because at that time, that was the only thing I had other than going to the yard and playing with the trees and plants and the hens and the buffaloes and all.
Right. Actually, a lot of people read a lot more during COVID lockdown.
Yeah.
So they have nothing else.
So if somebody doesn't read, there is nothing wrong. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And somebody is reading, that is maybe his or her natural inclination towards it, or because of the upbringing and the way somebody has brought himself or herself become that. Now, the new generation, they have more choices. But what happens is that if they have to, the first and foremost important thing is getting a job. If you are going to get a job, if you have to get a job, you should have certain capabilities and skills. Is book reading really required for that or not? That is one point. Some may think so, some may not think so. So that's why they need bites. They need very specific inputs. No storytelling, no paraphernalia, to the point. And that may be more attractive. So I like to position in that kind of thing.
So you all mentioned about use of ChatGPT. The last mention about ChatGPT is open. I just want to understand, since this is a Malayalam literary session, where does Malayalam stand today in this AI evolution? Like, especially for reading and enjoying Malayalam literature, and yeah. So is this Malayalam being left out of this AI? Yeah. So I think I know you are from your native language is Kannada, Telugu, right? Yeah. Maybe you could explain from that perspective also. Yeah.
So I use ChatGPT a lot for every WhatsApp message I make. I use ChatGPT. The reason is that I want to bring the best out of myself.
Is that a confession?
It is a confession. But more than that, it's not about me. It's about the person who receives the message. I don't want my inabilities, shortcomings, become a hurdle for the person who reads it to be affected. So I respect the person. Now, in Malayalam, it's very bad. Sorry to say that. Whenever I use Malayalam, it used to give a lot, it can give a lot of things, including from Vedas. And so there was one time, you know what Jnana Vrutha? Jnana Vrutha. Vrutha means Vriddhi. Vriddhi means what you acquire. So you can be a Jnana Vruthan at the age of 1 or 2 or 10 or 20 or 100, whatever it is. And then, there are different 5 or 6 types of Vrithas. So I asked ChatGPT, can you explain in simple words for me to communicate with somebody else? It came in WhatsApp group. It gave that. It gave that. But if it goes beyond, I also use Google Translate to translate English to Malayalam. Not so good. Many times. So I copy that into Google Docs and then I edit it myself. Maybe my Malayalam is different from what it is giving. So I think it's a long way to go. The corpus is not complete, it's not sufficient. I know somebody who is behind the Malayalam Sudandra language and Wikipedia, and she, Kavya, and they're doing a lot of work generating the corpus. But I think we can all contribute to it if you want Malayalam to become
I think there is a lot of, every country now realizes that they need to preserve their culture, because if everyone relies on ChatGPT for answers, it's kind of like, subscribing to the Western view of what your culture looks like, right? So countries are building their own AI. So Singapore has something called the Southeast Asia specific, cultural specific AI, which understands the nuances of the region. Similarly, India, I assume, is building its own AI, which understands the nuances of India's languages. Maybe it takes a bit of a time, but my question is more like, what do you see as, like, as this AI helping in not just understanding the language, but also in enjoying what is being written. So a lot of things that you mentioned is more about writing it perfectly and then reducing the errors and
then create.
Yeah.
So I came with Sunil today, and I asked him whether he uses ChatGPT to write poems, and he said yes. But then he said, those poems are not my poems in the sense, of course he gives the prompts and put all the context, all the relevant information, but some of the nuances, the way he writes certain phrases, it's really so amazing, that poem he read. That is missing in or it's not the same kind in the AI. So whether I need an AI to have the me they duplicated, it's a kind of a twin, my own twin, may be possible to, right? I think digital twins are there. I work on digital twins for industry. So it's possible whether we can customize the agency and multi-agent systems or agency wherein reinforcement learning and all that is utilized. Maybe we can explore along that direction where I have a twin to really help me to create something similar to the way I used to. But my personal view is that why should I limit myself? It's not against what Sunil mentioned. Why should I limit myself to my way of doing it? Why not I explore something that is totally different from me, and I like doing that. That is my creativity. So I used to write poems, but I stopped. So I was called for an educational conference in Kerala government in last September. And the first thing I showed in Kerala was it's a big LCD wall, a poem written by Google Gemini on my late mom with my prompts. And I said, I am a poet now, I continue to be with the help of AI. So I can be creative in my own way. AI is a tool, AI is a writer, AI is a co-pilot. I don't know when it will become something more than me and to control me. That's a different situation we face here.
Vinod, you want to add on?
Yeah,
so this was more about Malayalam and
yeah, so I was when you were asking the question, so I really wanted to do a find out. Right? So apparently there is something called as Malaya LLM. So MALAY, it's a play on Malayalam. So LLM. So it's actually somebody has made it and then put it onto the Llama to the open source, and it's available in Hugging Face. Right? So I don't know how good it is, but since you asked the question, that people are doing it. So basically, it's just like another ChatGPT, but restricted to the Malayalam language. Right? So you can go and same thing, you give it text, summarize it. So basically, when you say ChatGPT, it's a class of large language models. So the breakthrough that happened was like it can understand language, natural language, and then it can generate language. So that's the big thing that actually happened, and then all this transformation is happening due to that. Right? So given that, I think, I mean, I'm sure that we're very much behind, because you need to have industry support, government support to bring out all these things. Right? So, but something is happening on that space, whether it's enough, I don't think so. But I mean, it is there. So we have to see how it goes.
Yeah, basically, going off of what Mr. Vinod mentioned, the fundamental use case, like generative AI has reached this incredible point today. The base case was always translation of languages. So NLP started to understand natural language better and translating different languages. And I think it is still the most honest, beautiful use case of it, because as someone who is from, like, I speak, my mother tongue is Telugu, but I consume a lot of Malayalam movies because they are known to be like really good and forward-thinking. So, I can read the caption down, but say I want to get into Malayalam literature, what better way to help me translate all of that literature to be able to understand the text? Maybe there's some emotional context missing for sure if I read the translated version, but I think there is still some honesty to it. There's some like beauty to making literature, all languages, accessible to everyone. And thereby I can learn about everyone's culture through their own narration of the story. So I think it's such a great way to kind of expand your knowledge on culture. When it comes to Telugu literature, I can't actually read Telugu, but I only consume it through third-party stories. So I know my parents read and they tell me about it, or my grandparents would narrate a story to me. Here there's no real use of generative AI, but there is, in that sense, the lack of there being any LLMs in the picture. I get to hear my parents' interpretation of the prose, and I think that's also like a very beautiful way to get into reading. Of course, I can't read, but I know that now I can always use the generative text to interpret or translate whatever I wish to. So I think it's.
So you mentioned something about a human touch, right? So we can always use all these ChatGPT or other things to give interpretations of a book or whatever, different viewpoints, etc. 2 weeks ago we had this discussion, Pandavapuram, right? We had a very passionate discussion for about an hour plus about what Pandavapuram is about. How many of you have heard of Pandavapuram by Sethu? Okay, highly recommend reading it. We had a very interesting discussion. Maybe all that discussion we had, we could have just had a brainstorming with ChatGPT and got all that viewpoints. But maybe we may not get that full satisfaction of participating in a discussion without that human touch, right? But if you look at how learning is evolving, also a lot of human touch is to you, Professor Prahlad, is also reduced, right? A lot of classroom teaching is now gone. It's just the video recordings and people going through the video recordings and later coming up with some questions and things like that. So is this human touch going to be a premium in future? Is that where so you really need to pay premium to attend an SMLF session to get that human touch in future, and is that how it's going to be?
So I'd like to give the example of Aparna's singing. That made it clear. If I read it, I will not be able to relate to the way Aparna made me to relate to that. And during COVID, we had everything on Zoom. And I tried to give, I'm a storyteller by default when it comes to classrooms. And after COVID, there was issues in the classrooms in terms of not many may be turning up. Some may be turning up, but the laptop will be on or something will be on. They are not ready to have the eye-to-eye contact.
Yeah.
But some people started attending. Then I asked them, why are you attending? Why do you want to attend? And that surprised me, the answer they gave. Some of them wanted to have that physical experience where the real time they spend in a classroom is what they require to really relate to that topic. That was the first thing. The second person said, I like it because my peers, some of them will ask some interesting questions, and that helps me to think differently, and that your answers help me to think in a different way, and I want to have that experience. I don't want to miss that. So now it is increasingly coming back this year. What I'm saying is
people want that
more
physical.
people want the physical thing. So I think I also deal with students with mental wellness. The disconnect from people, their own parents, brothers, siblings, grandma, grandpa, that is a killer. And I would like to say that's one of the very difficult things to manage.
So on that note, maybe I just want to add, a lot of our reading starts from, when you look back to early childhood, right? You first hear stories from your grandma and parents.
Yeah.
That's how you get interested in literature and stories and all that, right? But I understand even that trend is also declining,
Yeah.
right? So you said that about the mental wellness and the human connection and all that. So are we also now kind of not helping the next generation to acquire that taste in reading and outsourcing that to the technology?
I agree partially because we don't have the courage and willingness as well as the leadership to really bring it back. I think the grandma stories are very powerful, and that made us to become something unique of our own, and relatability, empathy, and I think there was a point. I think Kirash's poem, Varghese song. Let me speak about that. ഉറുമ്പിനെ ചവിട്ടിയാൽ അത് നമുക്ക് പാപമാണെന്ന് പറയുന്നത് വളരെ മനോഹരമായിട്ടുള്ളതാണ്. ഓരോന്നും നമ്മൾ ചെയ്യരുത്. കുളത്തിൽ കല്ലെറിയരുത്, കിണറ്റിൽ കല്ലെറിയരുത്. വളരെ മനോഹരമായ അവസ്ഥകൾ നമ്മൾ പറഞ്ഞിട്ട് നമ്മുടെ ഉള്ളിൽ കേട്ടിട്ടുണ്ട്. അവിടെ ശരിയും തെറ്റൊന്നും പ്രശ്നമല്ല. അവിടെ ട്രൂത്ത് ഈസ് നോട്ട് വാട്ട് ഈസ് റിക്വയർഡ്. കാരണം നമ്മുടെ ethics, morality, and how to be a better human being is communicated through all these stories. And the value of which are we missing or are we not understanding? So maybe you're able to get married, right? Yeah. Let me ask, okay, let me take
So this is the last question, and after that we go to audience.
Do you think you will read to your son or daughter or someone like that?
No, I don't want to put her in a spot.
Having kids, but no, I mean realistically, I'm not sure if I will have the time to, but I would like to at least induce the habit through them doing everything.
There is something called in engineering and also social systems and our time constant. We need certain amount of time to understand, relate, and associate. And that is now getting affected because of the digital age. So it's like you take some work and you have to go through the process of eating it in a particular way, and it requires a certain amount of time to appreciate it. But if you accelerate that process, you miss the very central aspects of what Samba really is for. So this is true with advancements in technology by way of certain things are pushed quickly to it doesn't matter whether it is old generation or new generation. And that is one aspect. The other is, I don't know how much technology we can bring in, is what is known as PID controller, proportional internet regulation. We are all good at it. Integration means summation, parents' inputs or our own experience from the past. We have to have a weightage for that. Then proportional means knee-jerk reactions this current time to relate to. Derivative is like the way graphs are going up, when to invest, when not to invest, when to sell off. So it is like a future. The past, present, and future was in our part of our life, part of our thinking, part of our reasoning, part of our intelligence, part of our execution. And it was part of our life as well. That is vanishing now, and more of adult-related, that is knee-jerk reactions are becoming dominant, especially that is being accelerated with the content delivery by AI and the snippets, the skimming, and all that. So I'm a bit worried about it because the past is experience, the future is what will happen. If you miss these two, we have issues. And mental wellness is also, in a way, related to that.
Okay, so we switch to audience for questions, comments. Yes, Aparna.
Thank you for this wonderful panel discussion. I learned a lot. And thank you especially to Aishwarya, because I resonate with your growing up trajectory. With being an introvert with myself, I did have to bear the ire of my parents when I read late into the night and couldn't sleep. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up and create the solidarity with other introvert kids around. So I have one question. I think you mentioned in passing about the echo chambers. So in today's world where we have a lot of AI-generated content and human-generated content, and the lines between these two are blurring with such ferocity, how do we escape this cocooning or marooning into these polarized or partisan viewpoints, especially in terms of echo chambers which related to reading? And I ask this not just for me, but also for my tween. She's 11 years old and she's voraciously consuming both digital material as well as physical reading material, as well as for my parents who have now almost entirely migrated to the digital sphere of reading. So I would like some practical tips from the experts about how we can avoid ourselves being cocooned into these so-called echo chambers and creating a lot of toxicity and polarized opinions and making the society basically a pretty horrible place to live in. Thank you. Okay, this is a really great question because I have also battled a lot with my own political views lately. So I have also tried to figure out how to solve this problem when I'm only viewing things from one perspective. So what I do is I force myself to read media that is both, okay, if I'm talking about politics, I read media that is both right-wing and left-wing. I'll read and question both sides. And then I form my own opinion. So what I think might be a solution is to encourage kids to constantly read different kinds of authors, female, male, read all kinds of cultural books. Read, so don't constantly, if you're sticking to a genre of, say, science fiction, don't read science fiction books that are just based in the US. Read science fiction books that are written by Russian authors. Read by, Indian authors. That way you get a flavor of every single, I would say culture. You just have a more expansive knowledge base to make your own choices or make your own decisions, and you're not forced into like a rabbit
No, 1 minute, so you have to answer in 1 minute.
I'm talking too much. It's called biasing. It is there in every neuron in your brain. It is there in every neuron in AI. It's good. But we are diligent to really be open to alternatives and how to really inculcate that. That's an amazing thing to do. And so alternatives, I do always focus group discussions or inputs from others. So even for this conversation, I got it from Seattle, Bangalore, Chennai, Mangalore, Kochi, Trivandrum, and Singapore. All kinds of makers. So I got about 10 people contributing to this conversation. Yeah. Thank you.
മലയാളത്തിലും ചോദിക്കാം, ഇംഗ്ലീഷിൽ മാത്രമല്ല.
Can I just add on? So basically to answer your question, right, I think I already made that comment, right? So you have to force yourself to read widely, okay? So expand your horizons, right? So that you know, the system doesn't pigeonhole. That's the thing, right? So even if you're not interested in other things, right, try to read broadly. That's what I do, and that I used to do whenever I just go and browse the books, right? Every month I force myself to read a topic which I'm not at all comfortable with or whatever, right? So that the system is like you're trying to fool the system, but to your advantage, you are actually going and exploring new ways, and then trying to beat the system, not to pigeonhole you into a specific thing. Right? It's not easy. It requires a lot of discipline, and then like what I mentioned, right? You have to understand the technology, right? So not everybody might be interested, but if you can do that and see how this system works, how this thing is trying to pigeonhole you, then you have to work against that. And then try. So there are a lot of people who actually go and browse, a lot of nonsense stuff just to confuse the system. Algorithm. So that it doesn't really. So there are various ways to we can actually explore online.
Okay.
Yeah, just adding to what Mr. Vinod said, a great way to fool your YouTube algorithm is to always search for what you want and not click on what is shown to you. That is a tip that I got from the podcast.
More questions? Yes, Lily.
Before I go into my question, I just wanted to add 2 items. One, Prahlad sir said 80s, 90s having a book was a luxury. I fully agree with that because I had my own experience. I wanted to have I was doing my engineering, that was through institution of engineering. I wanted to get a block diagram of 8085 microprocessor. Okay, so that was the beginning of the microprocessor, and that book was costing 300 rupees. But I only wanted was a block diagram. So I was in Chennai. I was in Navy. I went to Higginbotham's, Mount Road. For those of you will know.
Yep.
I went to Higginbotham's bookstore. I went to a corner. I tried to make a block diagram. So it took some time. So by the time the storekeeper came, hello, this is not library, this is a bookstore. If you really want, you buy the book and take it. So this is just wanted to share. Sir, my question is, how to differentiate if it is a chat GPT or someone's original creation? You know why? Because in my office, project manager's office in Shikya, I used to act as a mentor. When the new recruits come, they communicate with clients. So they used to write something and come to me. I used to wait. I was not so good, but during my sailing, I used to read a lot of books. And ship doesn't have any other books other than English. Those days I didn't really understand, but I still used to read. Even now also I don't understand. Okay, but I still continue my reading. But my question is that, so nowadays what my subordinates, colleagues, they come with such a beautiful letters with very high-tech English and all. Actually my job is at stake now. So I wanted to know how to differentiate this human creation or ChatGPT. And number 2, reading. I used to tell my son and my daughter that reading helped me to write. Those days I used to read so I can write better. But now, because of the ChatGPT coming, you just key in, I want to write a letter. You don't need to waste time reading. You can get immediately, ready-made. So these 2 questions.
Yeah. So well, maybe to summarize this. So you earlier said that you yourself use ChatGPT, right? Maybe to add another question, is it really important to know whether it's written by a human or a ChatGPT outside of the professional setting? I understand in the professional setting it maybe you really need to know whether the person knows the topic or not. But other than that, is there a real reason to differentiate?
I don't think so. As I said earlier, the user is important, and user will have a better understanding of what you want to communicate. Why not? So it's a polishing that is good, and there are now algorithms to check whether it is GPT generated, and there are algorithms to convert GPT generated to human eyes. So it is not going to end anywhere.
I think when somebody reads a AI generated text, what is the primary concern? Is it a hollow text, or it doesn't have any value, it is not written by human, or what is the main concern there?
No, the problem is even if for a simple matter, it's still writing a lot of high-tech things which could have been written in 2 lines. He will write a good paragraph of all the history, this, that. The content is lost. So that's what.
So the person doesn't know how to use AI, that's a problem.
Maybe. Yeah.
Okay.
The job loss we mentioned, that is a serious thing. Yeah, so future of jobs, I always give this in my keynote speeches. Quite a lot of jobs will vanish. And a lot of new job roles will come. But these roles will have machine, algorithms, and humans being part of it. So it has to work together. So we be mindful about the job for life is gone.
I just want to add, so I had a similar experience of 80-85 thing there. But what I did, I just wanted to share. I have no way of going and trying to get that in, because for the project I required a lot of details. So I just took a chance. I wrote to Micron USA saying that I'm a student and I don't have enough money to buy the thing. They sent me the whole thing free of cost and the thing, right? And then that helped a lot. Actually I started sharing it across. So there are many ways to scheme the thing, right? And the other thing that you were asking is see, when you yourself are using ChatGPT, right? So there is a certain style of how it writes, right? And then once you get into that, you will get the nuances of it, and then you can kind of say that this is ChatGPT generated, right? So now what people do is there are some standard words which it uses. Not additionally, there are standard phrases that it keeps repeating. So now when you do the prompt, right, if you don't want other people to know, you say, please don't use all these things. So then it will start replacing with other things, and then it becomes less ChatGPT-ish, right? So that's how people are trying to do it, right? So if you try using it and then get the hang of it, you will try to understand. I'm saying it's not perfect, but at least 80% of things you might get.
I think there is a scope for a tech forum session on this. Okay, we will have another one.
About assessments what I do. I have better curated presentations and conversations. So my assessments are now biased because of the grammar mistakes or the content being not communicated very well. So I'm very happy. I tell students use ChatGPT, but I ask questions. You should know how to answer. Your understanding is important. The path to understanding is not an issue.
ഇനിയും ചോദ്യങ്ങളുണ്ടോ? ആ ഉല്ലാസിനെ എന്തുകൊണ്ട് ഉൾപ്പെടുത്തിയില്ല? ഉല്ലാസം
ബൊംബാസ്കി എക്സ്പ്ലോഷൻ ആയിരുന്നു. താങ്ക് യു വെരി മച്ച്. ഇത് പ്രത്യേകിച്ച് ഈ മലയാളം ലാംഗ്വേജ് സെക്ഷനിൽ ഉൾപ്പെടുത്തിയത് വളരെ താങ്ക് യു. I have 21 comments. കേട്ടോ? I have 21 comments. I just have 2 comments. I think it's phenomenal. This session was very good. I want to say 2 things. One, you can generally say divide creative reading and maybe informational reading. I think for informational reading, the book side is maybe dead, is my feeling. If you take a notebook, LLM, giving an information, you will get whatever you need to consume in whatever time you need. And for creative reading, I think ChatGPT did not affect creative reading, except what Vinod sir said earlier. Pandavaram, once you read Pandavaram, then you need to understand there are different viewpoints. In this way, there are many books. You read Dharma Purana, you will not understand anything. If you go and ask him, then maybe he will give you an overview of whatever is happening. I think that is
Yeah, so this one, so see, Shakespeare, also Shakespeare. Nobody is going to, on their own, go and pick it and read it because it's like very hard. So I came across one site called readbind.ai. You can go and explore it. So what it does is all the classics, they have the books there. Okay? And what they have done is like, they gather a lot of people who are knowledgeable in this field, and then they have conducted a lot of interviews and stored it there. And it becomes a part of their level, right? So now you can converse saying that, okay, I don't understand this, what's the context to this, how we describe it. So then these interviews, they are used back, and then so it becomes more easier to digest, very tough. See, usually classics are not easy to read. And it takes a lot of effort to really read, then the beauty comes out, right? So this is one way of, they are handling it.
absolutely. I think it enhances. It should be post. You must read first and then use it. Secondly, the content creation. I think Gemini is beautiful in Malayalam. Also, they have new. We talked about creating content for kids. They have now comics can be generated. So your story can be generated into the, for example, Malayalam. It doesn't have enough content for people or kids to absorb in Malayalam. I mean to say, for example, say Percy Jackson is Greek god reincarnated Greek. But Hanuman reincarnated in the Malayalam story. ഇന്നത്തെ കൃഷ്ണ പ്രസാദും വർഗീസ് ജോണും അനുമാനമുള്ള പടയതാണ്. അപ്പോൾ അങ്ങനെയുള്ള ഒരു സ്ഥലത്തേക്ക് അതിനെ കൊണ്ടുവരികയാണെങ്കിൽ കുട്ടികൾക്ക് വേണ്ടി കുറച്ച് ഇഷ്ടപ്പെടും. അപ്പോൾ അങ്ങനെയുള്ള സ്ഥലത്തേക്ക് ഐ തിങ്ക് there is a lot of scope for self-created content for kids. അപ്പോൾ നമ്മൾ സ്റ്റോറി പറഞ്ഞു കൊടുക്കുന്നതിന് പകരം ഒരു കോമിക് കൊടുത്ത് കൊണ്ടാൽ പറയും. അത് നമുക്ക് സ്വന്തമായിട്ട് ക്രിയേറ്റ് ചെയ്യാം. Gemini has picture book or something now.
Yeah, Flash. You believe, yes.
So that is, I think, is phenomenal. That's all. My 19th is By the way, please, നമ്മുടെ 1000 കുറവ് ആൾക്കാരേ ഉള്ളൂ.
One more tool that you can try out is like Google Studio, right? So where it's like conversation. That's absolutely, another way of and now what you do is you go and type it and then into replies and then but this is actually conversation. So you go and start talking to it and then it will respond to you. You can change the voice, whatever you like, right? You start conversing with it. And in between you can, just like having a natural conversation, you can break it between and then you can ask questions. So you please try it. It's like phenomenal. I think so it's like very conversation, so it becomes more personal and then, so you try it.
Can that be in Malayalam? That is what you will earlier asked. The conversation with a AI engine is much more smarter now these days with English on. If you speak in Malayalam, it cannot understand, it cannot respond properly. That is,
There are tools for that.
there are tools, but not as effective as English. Right, but not as effective as in English. If you tell a complex word sentence in English, that ChatGPT will understand and interpret. If you speak the same thing in Malayalam with as much as complication, it may not understand, its response may not be that.
Okay, related to that, because for ChatGPT or for AI, you can even ask to write one, give it a proper system. It will give you the correct system based on that particular system. It will give you the right. Okay, and I have tried
No.
for AI, I have tried proxying it to give a few information, and I have actually, okay, I gave it prompt to write about Mr. Prahlad. It gave me 7 versions. Okay. So maybe, can I send you this? It was like, I was pretty amazed by കോലാഹലം എങ്കിലും എനിക്ക് മാത്രം നിശബ്ദത മാത്രം ഏകാന്തതയുടെ മാത്രം. കണ്ണാടിയിൽ കാണുന്നു അപരിചിതരായ മുഖം. പഴയ ഞാൻ എവിടെ പോയി? ആ ചിരിയും സ്വപ്നങ്ങളും ഓർമ്മകൾ വേദനിക്കുന്നു, മറക്കാനും കഴിയുന്നില്ല. കാലം നിലച്ചു പോയതുപോലെ ഞാൻ കുടുങ്ങിക്കിടക്കുന്നു. So I was pretty amazed with what he gave, and he gave me 9 versions, 9 type of it. So I mean, it is pretty creative. You can give a general one. It has created a lot of stories also, which is you just need to give the one-liner and gives you amazing creation. I mean, I was really amazed that I was collecting this and then finding it. But the more, the better you give the book, you can give better response. Hello?
Hello.
Thanks.
Okay, last, before, one second. Sunil, one second.
I just wanted to add, I do my research in AI safety, and I want to convey this, that no matter what you ask GPT, if it's something that's not factual, best believe that it is hallucinating a lot of the times. Because for factual information, it has a source of truth to verify. For example, how do I get a license in Singapore? It is verified Google information. But when we are using it for more creative processes, such as summarizing or explain to me what the interpretation of the Bhagavad Gita is, its interpretation, I would say that GPT-5 is pretty good, Claude is really good, but they are still prone to hallucinations. And you can, okay, this is a very rough way of testing if your LLM is hallucinating. It is to ask it the same question in a slightly modified manner. And if every time it gives you a completely different answer, it doesn't know what it's talking about. So when you are using it for more thinking, reasoning purposes, please be aware that it may or may not be fully correct. I can add something to that. Because this hallucination is something which really happened. So when we were discussing on Sathyan, I incidentally tried to go in and check the box. ChatGPT insisted that his original name is Sathyan. Based on that particular author's original name, he kept insisting, whatever that how many, whichever way you ask, he kept insisting saying, oh, his name is Sathyan. So, and he was born somewhere in Varghese. So I kept asking him, where is Varghese? He is born from Varghese. So, and the thing is, that he keeps saying the same thing again and again in different words. So maybe somewhere he got this as Sathyan. And also one of the funny things which I found is, when you ask it about some books which it doesn't really know, it comes up with a very beautiful story about it. From the title of it, it creates its own story, its own content, and it can give you, when you ask about Malayalam author, it can give you the list of the books which the author has not even imagined about. So it's very beautiful. If you try it, it is very interesting.
That is called hallucination. It's not.
So I have a Wikipedia page, okay? It's not created by me because Google creates it. And Google keeps track of what words are being searched more and ranks it and accordingly on this. So I asked ChatGPT, Google Gemini, Perplexity, DeepSeek, everyone, write a movie theme for Prahlad. It's not to make a movie about me. I want to know, I know myself better than anybody else. I want to know what they write. Everybody made mistakes. Not one. Many places. So take with a pinch of salt all the time and be careful not to be completely big. The worst AI-generated phone calls, my student lost $11,000. Scams are there. So be mindful about, always with a pinch of salt. Have our own intelligence to dominate all the time.
Okay.
Can I add one comment to that?
Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much for the discussions. I really enjoyed it, and I really appreciate including agency in there, right? So it brings in a new perspective. So just to answer about that hallucination. Of course, of course. Yeah, just to add one comment to the hallucination factor. So by profession, I'm a program manager in Tech. So we always use objectives and key results. So I was asking, our own internal GPT-5, whichever model it is using, regardless of that, we have something of there, .gov.st, which we use internally. So I was asking to give, I gave a few statements and I asked it to give me objectives and key results using this, right? So it came up with wonderful numbers. Oh my God. If I submit it to my bosses, I will definitely get appreciation or whatever, right? Then I asked back, this is a very good tip, I asked back, where did you get this number? Right? Then it immediately apologized to me. It said, I should have been, what actual, these numbers are something, I came up with something along that line, and then I asked for the source. So always ask for the source. And you can click to the source and verify the information. Perplexity is very good with that. It really come up with those sources, and you can click and read yourself that these are actual. And then Perplexity, another admiring thing about that is also the curiosity factor that the CEO, I was listening to the CEO in a TED talk. So he was talking about being curious. That is very human. Now machines are coming in. How can you be human in this era, right? So Perplexity always suggests these four or five questions. After that, now GPT-5 also started doing that. So I'm really, this is something I use in my work and day-to-day. Ask questions back. Ask it whether what you are reading is factual. Ask for references.
Quick comment. This happens with humans also.
10 seconds.
Yeah, with humans also. You ask me something, if I don't know, still I will give an answer.
Okay, last question. Sunil sir.
See, ഞാൻ ഹോപ്പായി വെച്ച് ചാറ്റി കിട്ടി ഫോർ റീപ്രായം ഇപ്പോൾ ആരോ പറഞ്ഞിട്ടു മലയാളത്തിൽ പലപ്പോഴും ശരിയാകുന്നത് കരുതില്ല ഞാനത് വീണ്ടും വീണ്ടും ചെയ്തുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുമ്പോൾ giving better answers later. So it's up to us to make it learn. That's what I mean. But, for example, Mahabharata, I'm asking the law. Can you give me the paradoxes in Mahabharata? Then it asked me, about which character? Okay, Bhishma. It narrated the whole thing. The first brief of Shabadam, because the Shabadam, what all things he had to do wrongly. It enumerates the whole thing, enumerates the whole misdeeds of, not misdeeds, the wrongdoings of Bhishma. And then the last thing. So, and if it is not giving all the, suppose there are 7 paradoxes, it is giving only 5, then if you remember something, you just input. Yeah, I'm sorry, yeah, you are correct. It's almost. So, we can make it clear, that's what I understood. I can make it clear. And it improves. And later, it will be better when I ask something.
Yeah, 10 seconds.
Okay, good.
It's not data driven. Data driven. There is data, it will learn better. You ask, you give, it's also learning on that process. And we do it humans also.
You will keep the data. Yes. For the usage.
Yes.
Then I ask them again.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Final
So
thoughts.
we talk about hallucination, right? So one way, like I think Ulas already mentioned. So when you go to ChatGPT, it's a jack of all trades. So they have collected the information from across the internet. Whatever can be consumed, what you're saying is already consumed, right? So then you have a whole gamut of things, and then you can hallucinate based on that. So how to avoid that is that using notebook LM. I'm not sure if you know, right? So question. For example, Bhagavad Gita, right? I'm not sure whether that being a big one, whether you can load or not, I haven't tried it, but you can try it. So you load the thing there, and then it will restrict itself to only that, right? So you can give the sources, whatever you trust, right? And then the beauty of it is going to actually only refer to that. It won't refer to anything. So you're giving it credible sources, and it will only generate from there. So that way, hallucination is like greatly cut down. And then you can try. And it's a great learning tool. I use it. It's amazing. So if you're new to something, like you just dump it there, and then one way I learn is like to create mind maps, right? So that itself is a thing, right? So now you load in a book, and then after you read it, you ask it to generate. There's an option called generate mind map. It will generate a mind map for you. So the learning is very, very quick. So it's, please try it.
Okay. I think we are out of time. I think there's a pretty interesting discussion. Maybe we have more time, we can continue. But great, thank you, Aishwarya. Thank you, Prof. Thank you, Vinod, for the wonderful discussion, and thanks, audience, for participating. I think generally there are a few things that we can hear. People are concerned about the AI-generated content. Whether it is true, whether it is authentic, what does it even mean by being authentic? That's also a question. Whether you get what I call bias by certain views. Is this people will നമ്മളെ മലയാളത്തിൽ പറയില്ലേ വെള്ളം ചേർക്കാതെ വിഴുങ്ങാന്ന് പറയില്ലേ അതുപോലെ so what does it, I don't know, I will translate it for you later. So whatever the AI says, if you don't verify and then consume it, it becomes a problem. We're hearing all that stuff. Any final thoughts? I think otherwise I'll just close this.
So, I mean, to me it's like it's a beautiful piece of technology, right? So, I mean, whether you use it or not, the world is going that way, so you better get used to it, right? And it's going to transform the way we work, the way we think. And I keep telling my son, he's doing his engineering, he's doing his third year. I'm telling you, by the time you get out, it's all going to be changed, right? So I told him the one thing, you need to be good in AI. That's the only way to go about it, right? So encourage your children to get into it. And my son is still very skeptical. You say that all this is, I said, no, it doesn't matter. Because all the big techs are pouring billions of dollars into this, something will come out of it, so you cannot escape from it, right? So it's going to be a reality. So what I encourage everybody to do, you might have your access, you will say, this is bullshit or whatever, right? But what I'm trying to say is that, use it as a tool, as an aid, as a tutor. Don't rely on you completely as a 100% thing, right? So you do your stuff, and then you augment it with your all these things, and then you broaden everything, right? And pretty soon, like what all the big leaders are saying, that in 10 years, they're saying that these machines can transcend your human thinking. That's the way it's going. So with that, you need to work with it, learn it, and then make it a part of your learning journey, and then improve your life. Right? That's what I can say.
You have to change. If you don't change, you'll be thrown out.
Yeah, it's actually.
Okay, 30 seconds, closing.
Yes. It's so interesting to see that the older generation is so much more comfortable with using generative AI, because I think my generation uses it with a lot of shame and guilt. But in conclusion, like Mr. Vinod said, use it for intellectual advancement and not for intellectual replacement. And I think that's some food for thought, and it's here for sure.
Good.
So what we are using is fast technology. Google, OpenAI, they have advanced much beyond. What is coming tomorrow is much different from this, so we prepare for it. The second thing is, I work in what is known as embodied intelligence. The intelligence we have is because of this body. ChatGPT doesn't have anything related to physics or laws of the nature. And so robots getting that embodied intelligence is a different ball game altogether. But I don't think it will happen soon. And main issue is contextual awareness and that report and the kind of computing required for that. But a lot will happen in LLM related models where physics is not part. But our life will be better. Great, wonderful, that's what I say.
Good. Thanks everyone. So with that, we close the session. Thank you.